That is the main point because I have dictated it as such.
Would you please make sure that you are very aware of where you fit in with this and close your lips? You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, know your role, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Acknowledge your position and be silent.
Oh my God. That's good. That's like just when you think you got all the answers, I go and change the questions.
That is a good one.
Who said that?
Roddy Piper.
Yes, sir.
See, I was thinking just bring it.
Oh, dang, just bring it. But they both start with just. But no, what's going on, everybody? So, if you're wondering, hey, that's not a song lyric. Hey, that's not a movie quote. It's because it is back. We have gone around the alphabet one more time, so the hosting has switched once again. And this time it is back with yours truly introing the show. After I finish, we'll have to come up with something for Pete, Omari, for him to have to figure out something to go in succession. But this time, we talk about wrestling so much on every episode, whether we try to or not. So he had the idea, why not do wrestling catchphrases? So that's what we're doing. But anyway, all that being said, for those of y'all who do not know me, I am. Well, first of all, let me introduce the show. This is the Whatever We Want podcast. I am your host, one of your hosts, Superjaz.
Superjaz.
You may call me Superjaz. That's nature intended. You may call me Superjaz, SJ, JT, whatever you want, what have you in the like. And as I said, this is the Whatever We Want podcast, where we do just that. We do not lead the conversation. The conversation leads us. We let the chips fall where they're made.
Every Wednesday.
I was about to start going on some rambling.
I was wondering if I said Superjaz too loud. Because I don't live alone. So I was like...
Oh, shit. Okay. Well, if you're wondering about who the other person on this podcast is who might have said Superjaz too loud, who are you, sir?
Y'all know who it is, what's going on, when it's happening, where it's at, and why we're here today. How you doing? It is I, the sublimely magnificent Big Ugly himself, Omari Ellis feogrande on YouTube, Pete, as sometimes referred to on this show. And yeah, like he said, this is indeed the Whatever We Want podcast.
Yes. And like I said, we'll just get right into it. So I was telling my dear best friend, Pete, as I call him, long story, don't worry about it, Omari. Off the recording, we were talking about what I did last night. And I was like, dang, I'll probably talk about more of that when we actually hit record, because maybe I could have talked about some of that hitting record. But last night, I had the pleasure, and I genuinely say pleasure, of opening for my good friend of mine, Dare Bionic is the name that he goes by, and that's spelled Dare, second word Bionic, Bionic. Dare Bionic, anywhere you stream your music. He just released his second solo album. Me and my dude I'm talking about used to make music back in the day, me rapping, him singing. He released his second solo album, which is crazy to have 2 albums in the can already. That he always wrote so much faster than me. And he went on after I opened for him. I did about 45 minutes, opened the show, took a little break. Then he went on and he rocked the house for like 75 minutes. And it was such a fun time. If you the name of the album I'm talking about is Statuesque Hot Mess. Oh man. Over, I'd say, the last 2 years, Dare Bionic has very much, and I mean good for him, embraced his LGBTness, if that is a word I can say or use, but he's very much embraced it. Mm-hmm. So he's like all his music is just very much just like this is me and all that stuff. So it's just like all just like hyper flamboyant and hyper bisexual energy and just like hyper like just but just like in the best way possible. So I mean the man was like he was just but it was so much fun. It's crazy. Well, first of all, let me say the way you spell statuesque is spelled statuesque, but then hot is Haute, and then miss. Um, I know, right? Yeah, no, dude, he was like,
Haute. All right.
he was like, if I'm going, I'm going. I love it, which he did. And it was like I said, he brought the house down. And it's just fun. Anytime somebody lets you get on stage, in any capacity, when you love to perform and they let you get on stage to perform your craft for people, it is always just like a gift, almost like a pleasure. Even if it's not like a gift, like okay, ooh, kissing ass, whatever. No, it feels like a gift, or if anything, it's just like a pleasure to be able to get on that stage. So it felt good to do that. This was the first time that, like I was telling you, this is the first time that I have ever performed on stage strictly by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I have my instrumentals playing in the background, and my dude, back in the day, like I said, me and Darius, we were with this group called Same Difference, and him singing, me rapping, like I said, and I performed on stage with him. Then when we started having our solo careers, I I tried having a band for a second called Shattered Blinds. Tried doing a few things with a few other people, and then when I had my release party, I just performed, but I always wanted to perform with live instrumentation. Like I love doing that. So I had people on stage with me. So it was like I fronted bands. So, I'm the main focus, I'm the main one doing everything, blah, 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 blah. But I was never the only person because I was up there with instrumentalists. So I was never the only person on stage. So this was the first time because I had my backing tracks and no one else that I was the only person up there.
Yeah.
And it's just like I said, it's just crazy because now every time I get on stage, I pleasantly surprise myself
That's
with
good.
how comfortable and natural that I end up feeling. Because I remember when I first started getting on stage, the only way you're gonna get good at anything is you got to keep doing it. But I remember when I first started getting on stages, and not acting but music wise, man, I got like one show in particular that me and Darius actually kind of joke about how we went and did that show, and it was like, oh. There's one show in particular where it was just like, oh my god! But we learned so much from that show. We learned because there was we the show that I'm talking about. He got it because he was friends with somebody else who was in another band. We went up, we did our thing first because we were like very much least known and whatever. Then they went on after, and then there was like this touring group of like musicians that went on after us, and we learned so much from that show. We learned one how to structure a show, and the way you structure a show is not the same as structuring an album. When you structure an album, it's almost like you got a captive audience, so to speak. So it's like people are already listening to the album, so you can try to tell a story. The way you structure a show is you got to come out with something to get the audience's attention, and it's more of like a roller coaster ride. You bring them up, then you bring it down. You bring them up, then you bring it down. And we tried structuring the show with softer songs and then ending with the high song, but by that time, you never got the people's attention enough for them to give a fuck when you did the low shit. You come out with the low shit, and then people are just like, I don't care. So by the time you do the loud shit, they kind of lost interest.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do the like gripping energy shit and you go to the low stuff, they already with you. It's like so we learned kind of from that. We also learned that like, or kind of just saw like being around musicians and stuff and watching the people who went on after us and how they tore down the house. But when we were in the back, and obviously you could tell that we were still new to this stuff, they still treated us like equals. They it did that. There was no feeling of them talking down to us or nothing like that. And like oh y'all will get there, and like it was like this whole thing. So it was like it just being around that was just like another thing too. Um, but like I said, so I look back on that show, and it's just like every time you get on stage, it's a learning experience if you look at it as such. Like I'm looking at this, and I'm not ridiculing myself for any way that I did last night, but did looking back at the video, kind of think like, okay, when I perform, um, what? Oh, okay. I look comfortable and natural, at least from what I think, but I can hold my head up a little bit more, like little stuff like that. But like I said, my dude released his second album, and I've been friends with that dude now since fucking 2014, and
Mm.
that is the craziest thing to think about. It's like when I think about our friendship and how I've been friends with you since I don't even know what year. We've been friends for
A
20
long
plus
time.
years, 20 plus years, bro.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's just like when you look up and you're just like, holy shit, this person has been in my life this long. We just shared all these secrets. We've helped each other when necessary. I'm talking about me and Darius, because me and you, obviously, me
Mm-hmm.
and our D there. I don't even
Yeah.
shouldn't care. I say his first name, whatever. Um, but me and him, we've like we learned music together to the point where now we kind of know what we're doing with this shit, and people kind of look to us, and it's just like you grow with somebody. So then when you do your own thing, but y'all still come back together, and y'all are still like it's like a unit. Like we performed right before he did his set. We performed the last song that we did together as a single called "Kick the Door In." If you want to find the "Kick the Door In," same thing. Um, and we did that, and that brought back so many memories of us being on stage. And it's just like all we doing now is hopefully growing separately, but we're seeing each other's separate growth and kind of encouraging each other to grow like separately and together, and it's just amazing. Like
Yeah. It is awesome that he used his show to like be like, hey, you come out here and open, so y'all still working together even though you're working separate.
exactly. And like uh I I uh I want to put on a play. He put on his own show, and honestly, me and another good friend of ours was supposed to be in the show that he directed. He this was like a few years ago before the world did what it did, but
Gotta love it.
yeah, but he put on his own show, which was a two-person show, and he was gonna do it. It was like no race, no not like not it wasn't race specific, age specific, gender specific, nothing like that. So
Yeah.
he was gonna do it with me and another friend of ours, and he's gonna direct it. The two of us were gonna be in it. I was supposed to be moving to Chi-Town. That never happened. So he ended up recasting it and did that. But he was gonna do that. But I am actually thinking of, before the year is out, if all goes according to plan, producing a show, having him direct it, and then me be in it. So it's just like we always like we're growing separate, but we always come back together. And it's very much this whole thing of like I'm pushing myself, but I want to share the food that I got from my own journey with you. And it just no, it feels really good. And he told me straight up, he was like, because I have an opportunity right now to get on the stage, but I am kind of dragging my feet. Um, that's a whole other story. But he told me like when we rehearsed, because we did like a little separate rehearsal Thursday before Saturday,
Yeah.
for the show, and he was like, I wanted you to open for me because one, you're my friend, two, you make really, really good music, and then three, you need to get on more stages.
Yeah.
So he did that for me. Right.
What is
Right
that?
now
That's
I'm
awesome.
yeah, right now I'm looking at like still promoting my secret identity, and I just finished doing my music video, like the second video we just finished. Now I got to think about just the rollout for it. and all that stuff. So I'm doing a whole lot of like behind the scenes stuff and like more digital shit, and kind of trying to get on stages when necessary.
Yeah.
But I do need to, because when we were together, we were both pushing each other to be on stages
Mm-hmm.
musically,
Yeah.
and then I started kind of getting on stages separately. But then I kind of slipped away, and then now I'm starting to do more stuff as far as like digital behind the scenes, and not as heavy to the live shows. So he's right. I
Gotcha.
need to get on stages more. Yeah. Still working, just not working the same way. So he's right. But no, it was fun, man.
That's
It was
good.
a fun fucking time.
Yeah, I've never done a full show solo. That's nothing I've done on stage like solo. I've done little like a scene or something here or there where I've done it solo, where it's like, oh, this is a poem, this is a something, but not like a full 45-minute set where it's just me and the audience. Yeah, I have not done anything like that. Obviously, I'm not a multi-talented performer.
Oh, please.
No, I said multi-talented. I didn't say I'm not a talented performer. I said I'm not a multi-talented performer. I only have the acting field. I don't really have the rapping and the singing to go with it. So there's less opportunities to do a 45-minute look at me, type deal. However, that's not to say one-man acting shows or one individual acting shows, because I don't want to exclude women. So I say the one individual acting show isn't a thing. It's just not something I ever thought about doing and or felt like I could do. You know what I mean? But I also never tried it. So there's that.
The biggest thing with a lot of stuff in life, and I can definitely at least say with a lot of stuff when it comes to the arts, is the easiest way to do it is to just do it. Like that's the craziest thing about it.
Well,
Like,
yes, and I do hear you, and I've taken that approach with a couple of things when I've gotten the chance, like the streaming every day in 2021, for instance. I I just did it. I didn't think I was going to last a whole year, but because I did kind of cheat and not give myself like I'm a stream for an hour or for 2 hours or something like this at this same time every day, because I just gave it the parameters of I'm streaming every day this year, regardless of parameters and stuff like that. I was able to make it through, especially when I started going out of town near the end of the year. It's like, all right, this is a 5-minute stream in an airport or something, but I'm still live. I'm still doing it. And I said I would be live every day. That kind of thing. So aside from the like little cheaty aspect of it, I still did it every day for a year. And like you said, the best way to do it was just do it. And that's what I did. And I'm working on a similar approach to stuff for my own YouTube channel. But yeah, the hardest thing for me is not necessarily... I do feel like if I got on stage to do a one-man show that I had practiced or set up, I'm not gonna be like, I did knock it out the park. Yeah, I'm the best actor on the fucking planet. I'm not gonna be egotistical like that, but I feel like the act of being on stage in front of an audience for 45 minutes would be easier for me than setting up a show that's 45 minutes long to be in front of an audience for, that I was confident enough to go on stage in the first place with. Take stand up.
Last part again,
Well,
I don't know about.
take stand up, because I'll use stand up as my example. People have told me I should go into stand up.
You might be pretty good, yeah.
And because they told me I'm funny. Now, granted, these people are people I already know, so take that with a grain of salt. But people have told me I'm funny and that I would make a good stand up. And while I would love doing stand up comedy, coming up with, your 45-minute, hour-long materials of what you think everybody else finds funny and making it all coherent, I can't really do that because while I have admitted that I'm one of the funniest people to myself that I know, like when our editor shows me these episodes, like before they go up, I see them and I'll find myself laughing my ass off at some of my own things and things I've said and just like, haha, that's hilarious. But I know not everybody thinks the same way I do. And I put that in a previous video and it's still the same way. I'm like, how do I entertain the mass? How do I come up with something that's 45 minutes of solid material for the masses to enjoy? And I don't know about doing that. Like, the act of being up there, like, once I have the 45-minute long script or the framework there, getting on stage and doing it, because I do have this innate... Everybody has nerves before they go on stage. And if you don't, well, congratulations. But most normal people have nerves before they go on stage, and I'm no exception, despite not being the, textbook definition of normal. But once I'm on stage, generally, the second I open my mouth for my first line or whatever, it's on. Example being CEO... the year I got to do the top 8 thing for Mortal Kombat, where I was announcing the people to the ring. Yeah, the ring announcing for that. Scared as hell to go up there. I'm like, the people at FGC don't know me. I'm the weird trench coat guy that, you see him on Sundays. And that's cool. But I went up there, and the second I started doing it, There was still some nerves. They were like, your voice is a little too growly to be saying some of these things, because I was like, Sonic Fox, and stuff like that. But at the same time, I'm trying to have a ring presence and persona to it. Like, I'm not just trying to be like, up next we got this person right here. Hi guys, I'm Omari. I'm just some black dude out of Florida. I hang around some of the more popular players in the area. But I think up next we got from Delaware this person. No, it's a wrestling ring. If Vince McMahon would have went up there and been like, "Hey guys, thank you for coming. This is my thing I put together. It's got Hollywood meeting pro wrestling. This is WrestleMania." Nobody would have gave a fuck. Motherfucker went out there. This is WrestleMania. So, play it up. Play up the in-ring persona. I'm announcing to people. Let's put some fucking oomph into that. Sonic Fox. Stuff like that. Or Scar. Oh, up next we got Scar. Oh yeah, that's real interesting.
Say it like you just said one more time.
Oh, up next we got Scar.
That sounds so disinteresting.
It's like when people get mad at Stone Cold, or when Stone Cold said people used to get mad at him, they're like, yo, you got more of that beer on you than in him. And in his words, listen, motherfucker, I'm out here trying to entertain an audience. If I just go out there and sip it proper, how entertaining is that?
like if he just went out there and went...
Or just open it up. Make sure you get your pinky out. Give me a heck yes.
Give me a heck yes.
Would you please bequeath unto me a heck yes?
And that is the lowest straight distance between any 2 points.
And that is the last thing I will say on that subject. Or that is the last thing that needs to be said about that subject. Because it was said by Stone Cold.
Because I myself uttered so.
Because I have dictated it so.
Because I have dictated it so.
I have dictated it as such. There you go. That is the main point, because I have dictated it as such.
Okay. Would you please make sure that you are very aware of where you fit in with this and close your lips? You know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, know your role, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Acknowledge your position and be silent.
Oh my God. That's good. That sounds like a fucking teacher. That sounds like something that, like a teacher would say to like I don't know, like middle school kids or some shit.
Yeah.
Everyone, now what do we what does Mr. Ellis always say?
Acknowledge your position and be silent.
If you ever become a teacher, you gotta say that. People will never know that you're actually telling them know your role and shut your mouth. That would be hilarious. Oh shit. Oh man. I order that you simply I order that you simply make it go from there to here. That's stupid. Anyway.
Yeah, but it'd be like if I were to take something as simple as the chips fall where they may and put something convoluted as like crisps descending in whichever direction they fall. Who's gonna get that?
Yeah.
Who's gonna get that?
Nobody would get that reference.
Yeah. It was literally the same thing. And that's why, yes, there was a little bit of a growly nature to what I said.
You could hear my eyes rolling as you're finishing.
Hey, I don't make the titles, okay? It's up to you and the editor.
Why is it up to me all?
Because you have caught some of this editor's dumb titles and corrected them.
Bruh, at the end of the day, we both have the option to change the titles to whatever we see fit. But you have.
Well, yeah, I corrected his typo. He put Crips. I'm like, what the fuck? We didn't say anything about Crips. And he's like, oops, I meant to do crisps because it's like chips, but in British.
You have said that you don't mind that I go in and
I don't
change the titles to whatever the final title may be, because most of the time you're okay with my outcome or like my last like thoughts on titles.
Yeah.
Any whoozle badoozle shoozle.
Yeah, I'm saying no. It's like you rolling your eyes at me because of what the editor did. I'm like, that's what I was saying.
No, but at the end of the day, going back to what we were talking about, no.
Yes.
Did you finish what you were saying?
To go back to the statement or the point I was initially making, it is when I'm on stage, nerves or otherwise, once I open my mouth to start, a lot of that goes away because it is well, fuck it. I guess this is happening now. You know what I mean? So let's fucking do it. And you get the reactions out of the crowd. You hear stuff, like, I can't fucking hear you, blah, blah, blah. Let's do this. And that's fine. And I mean, and that's cool. But it's getting to that point to get to stage with a game plan in mind. And then go off.
When I talk about how, like, and this is not me bigging up myself at all, but when I talk about how I look back for where I was as far as being comfortable doing music on stage to where I am at this particular moment, and of course I still got room for growth, one of the main things that helps with being nervous, because like you said, you're gonna get nervous. I was nervous before I went up there yesterday. And you're going to get nervous every time. The day you stop getting nervous, they say, and I have to kind of agree, the day that you genuinely stop getting nervous, like you could do a run of like maybe 20 shows, get nervous the first two, you're not nervous after. But if you don't get nervous initially and you stop getting nervous in any capacity for shit, it's the day you should stop. Because that means that you don't necessarily care about it as much as you probably used to. So you're not going to give it your all. I kind of agree to that. Anyway. One of the biggest things that helps with nerves is preparedness, man. The more you are prepared and the more you've rehearsed, the less nervous you're going to be. Because one of the main reasons you're like, oh shit, I might fuck up. And I'm not saying you with the announcement, I'm just talking about in general.
Yeah.
One of the main reasons that a person may fuck up is when you haven't rehearsed to a T, planned to a T, everything to make sure that when you're in front of these people, you know your stuff inside out, backwards, forwards. Because I watch battle rap on YouTube that I've said a lot, and one thing that I've heard some other battle rappers say, and this is something that like I, certain songs I've said a million times I could do this is like if you get your stuff to a point where you don't even think about it and it's second nature, it's almost like muscle memory and your brain can go on autopilot and you can still be performing and speaking, but you could be thinking about other shit while you're doing it. So like while I'm rapping this song, I'm also like noticing that, oh, you put a camera in my face. I'm gonna play to this camera. I'm also like, oh, I'm about to trip over the cord. Let me move the cord. I'm also like, oh shit, don't fall off the stage. I'm thinking, while I'm saying the verse, I'm thinking, oh, I haven't worked the stage enough. Maybe I should move so much a little bit. Oh, you know what? I'm moving a little bit too much. Let me stand right here and play this, play this up a little bit. Then I'm like, oh, I actually want to stand still and my energy was making me sway. And you think it is while you're saying the shit because you said it so much that you could actually be like thinking about it and everything like that. So yeah.
At my job at a call center, we have little scripts we need to follow. Spoilers, but peek behind the curtain for people who don't know. Most call centers that you have to go talk to, they're probably following some sort of script. They tell us not to memorize the script. They tell us not to memorize the script because things can change and other stuff like that. I'm an actor. You can only put so many script in front of me so many times before I start memorizing it.
Without even trying to.
So as far as your second nature thing, I'm like, yeah, I'll get to a point to where I'm like going through it and I'll start thinking about other stuff and I'm like, oh shit, did I actually say that line correctly? Because I was thinking about way too many different things and now I've been past, that was a paragraph ago. Oops. Hopefully I said it correctly, but I keep getting good grades on the quality call, so yeah.
What are you talking about, right? It's like you rehearse it enough to a point, and then also anything that you do, whatever it is, performance art, whatever, whether it's digging a ditch, whether it's popping fucking popcorn, whether it's I don't know, drawing the letter S, anything you do, how many fucking times you do it, you're gonna get better at it. So the more that you get on stages, the better you're gonna be on performing on stages. The more that you go like do calls at the call center, you're gonna get just whatever. So that's another thing to think about too. Is like that helps to cut down on like nerves and stuff like that too. And then like now the main thing I talk about when I talk about like uh being on stage and I like pleasantly surprise myself with certain stuff is like when I tell you I used to be on stage and be so afraid of what to say, like you were talking about, like, oh my God, what do I say? Like in between the song, in between the obvious thing I'm gonna say, what the fuck do I say? Oh shit. I remember one time, right, when I was on the stage when I was still doing my same different stuff with D-Dare Bionic, and it was like a lot of other people, and we were opening the show, and then there's gonna be some spoken word stuff. This was like a whole long story, but anyway, so trying to find something to say in between, like something happened or whatever. And I used to do this thing because I didn't really know what to say, so I was like, oh, well, this might kind of work. And nobody really want to see us though. And so I say, well, you got to get on stages where you might not get booed out the building, but you will have people who don't want to hear you. So I was on stage one time at the mic, and it was in between something or whatever, and I'm like, uh, and my way of finding something to say was making it seem as though I didn't know what to say, and then kind of playing up, oh, I don't know what to say, and then so I was like, I gotta say something to y'all. What do you call a fish with no eyes? And I said that right. And I remember one time, right? This is what I said. I used to be so like, oh, what do I say? Oh my God, right? I said it on stage. I did. I said it on stage like at least probably 3 times. Yeah, like in between like various times. Yeah. So then I remember I was on stage, people sitting down at their tables or whatever. We opening, doing our little 15-minute set, and I was like, I don't know what to say. I was like, what did the rapper on who didn't know what to say on stage say when he was unsure? Not a damn thing. Somebody from the audience said that shit. Yeah, somebody straight said that shit for real. It was like, and it's just one of them things where it's like, now I've been through the not a damn things. I've been through the, you don't care what I'm saying and stuff like that. To now I can go upstairs, go over there, upstairs, go over there enough times and say stuff in between. Basically, the way I look at it, and this is a quote that I really use for when it comes to acting, but now I'm also saying when it comes to rapping, and it really probably goes to just art in general. The quote I always use is, you have to believe in your own bullshit. And what I mean by that is, you have to believe whatever you're doing is important enough to be done on this stage at this time in front of these people.
Oh yeah.
That's really all it is.
And I agree. I actually agree with that. Like, it may not seem like it, but I do agree with that, which is part of the reason why that's a roadblock for me.
And then that's why, like, I go on stage and there's one song in particular where there's like a line or two every time I rap it where I'm not gonna say the song because I don't want, if how many people watch this, I don't want them to be like, ooh, let me wait for that part. But I don't want to just put that thought in people's heads. Not that I'm ashamed to tell nobody. I just don't want to look for it necessarily. Anyway, but there's one song in particular, and it's not the only song, but it's like every time I hear it, I'm like, ugh, that was like my writing definitely could have been better on that part. But when I rap it, that thought pops in my head, but I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep on saying it and try to say it like it's the most important shit and the best shit ever. You got to believe in your own bullshit, or at least trick yourself into believing in your own bullshit. You have to like trick yourself, because I remember I was doing a show one time, and the director said, acting it, and the director said, because I had to be like a little comedic in this part. He was like, I don't think you're funny because you don't think you're funny. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't believe what you're saying is important enough, the audience won't. But if you say the dumbest shit ever, but you say it as though it was supposed to be important, or you even play it off, but you don't act like it was bad, then the audience will give you a whole lot of leeway. I also look at it too as the audience is basically, it's almost like if it was a ship, you're the captain of the ship. The audience is basically looking at you to say, okay, we trust you to steer this ship. And based off of how you act within the first few minutes, the audience is like, all right, we're gonna go along for the ride. But within the first few minutes, if you give them a reason, the audience is like, you know what, I'm good. And they're gonna jump off of that motherfucking life jacket or not and say, fuck your ass. But if you give them a reason, they'll follow you. It's really just like everything you do. That's why, again, going back, I was gonna say, going back to wrestling, when you watch people in the ring, one of the main reasons, like, you look at them then and now, is because back then
and
they didn't necessarily believe. That was good, but back then they didn't necessarily believe what they were doing, and then later on they really started believing in themselves. You hear wrestlers say that all the time. What were you gonna say though?
I feel like I hear you, but I also feel like it's easier to believe your own hype when you've at least heard that other people believe it.
It helps.
Because it's like the difference between going on as an present company excluded. It's the difference between going on as an opening act versus like the lead performer. If you're the lead performer, you at least have the knowledge that these people came to see you.
I mean, I've been both. But when you said present company,
well, because we were just talking about that, and I'm not really talking about you per se when I say this kind of thing. I'm saying most of the time, if you are going on earlier, you have to convince the crowd that, yeah, I belong here. And often you don't have a multi-year history of being in another group with the lead performer on stage. You might just be some local high school group that makes a song called Batman and none of the lyrics are legible whatsoever. But now you're on stage.
Is this true? Is this a true thing? Did this happen? What the fuck? What are you
It was my friends and I went to see my friend and I went to see a show called or by a group called Psycho Stick, and one of the local bands was started, and they looked like they couldn't have been older than high schooler. Like, this is they had good explanations for their songs and stuff. It's like, this is a song about so and so. It's called Batman. Music starts. It might have had a little bit of the na style riff, but from the '60s show. But the lyrics were literally just, and I'm like, I don't understand a single fucking word. I wish I did. There was another song where I forget how he came up to it, but he had some long story. And he said the name of the song was "I'm Offended by Your Pregnancy." And I was like, whoa, what is this gonna be?
That's a heavy ass statement.
Right? So I'm like, I want to hear, but he had the explanation, and I'm like, it was still a harsh title, but I'm like, okay, what are you mad about? You know what I mean? Let's hear it. You see, clearly something just blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, I'm offended by you being on stage now.
that name of that song makes such a fucking statement. Jesus Christ.
Now, it wasn't an anti-woman statement. I will say that. It had something to do. It had to do with like people having kids and something like that, based on his explanation.
Okay.
That said, I don't know what the lyrics to the song are whatsoever. I didn't understand a single. I don't feel like the title of the song was mentioned anywhere in the song with the way the guy was saying it. Like, that's what I'm saying, how unlegible his words were. But it was like a local high school group. They're on stage, and it's real hard for, like, let's say I'm going on stage with something like that. I might be a little bit less confident in what I'm doing than if I was the lead group that night. That's like, they put my name on the ticker and sold out. So I know they're giving me some leeway. They came to see me. I'm not a random group from high school trying to convince you of why you too should be offended.
Yeah, right. What I would say to that is, because I know you weren't like directly talking about me, but to put myself into it.
Go ahead.
I've been on stages, obviously a lot of stages. Let me not say a lot of stages. Like, what I'm saying is, I've been on enough stages where the people didn't know who the hell I was. The people, didn't come to see me. Like, it might have been an open mic. It might have been a show. Like, I definitely talked about the one show where me and D there Bionic joke about, like that show. And like just other stuff for that matter, where people didn't know who we were, what we were about. We played the City Museum a few times. If you're from St. Louis, City Museum is like a place people go to where a whole lot of stuff, there's a whole lot of attractions and shit. And we played like one of the areas in there and all that stuff, people passing through, whatnot. And when I say, and again, I don't want to sit up here and act like, oh, I got all the answers. No, I don't. And I got room to grow. But from what I've learned is, when I say you get better at something the more you do it, you also get better at being in front of people who don't give a fuck who you are. And you get better at, one of the best advice I got actually was from D there Bionic's brother, who he's actually featured on one of my songs. Goes by the name LC, used to be Lucci. Anyway, he gave me advice because we were talking about it when me and D there first started making music together, and I started talking to him about it, and he kind of caught wind of like, oh, y'all are making music and it's like different, but it's really good, blah blah. And one of the best advice he gave me, which is so simple, but he was like, you can't trip off of what the crowd is doing. You're entertaining the crowd, but you can't trip off of it. And that's so true. Because when you're on stage, you're the attraction. But how many times have like me and you together, separately, whatever, gone to see anything on stage or whatever, and then you got to get up and use the bathroom. You got to get up and get food. You might be eating food while you're doing it. You might be talking to the person next to you. You might come in late. You might be interested in this song, but not that song. And you don't mean anything necessarily to the performer, but you're the show, and the audience isn't there to entertain me. I'm there to entertain them. So you can't be thinking about, oh man, I gotta, oh, they're not so interested. Does that mean that this song sucks? Man, am I doing too much right now because of, whatever they did? Like they walked away. It's like, no, you gotta be performing not just as much, but you gotta be performing enough for yourself as much as you're performing for them. So when I'm like on stage and I'm looking around and I see people are into it, I really play up to everybody and I hope people are into it, whatever, because that feels good, it feels great. But you can't take it personal if somebody leaves because they might actually have something to do, or if they don't like your shit, it's just whatever. But then also, like I said, like you gotta be performing. That's why I say the whole thing of you gotta believe in your own bullshit. That's the biggest thing that I've adopted that kind of helps me. Which is why I say you got to be performing enough for you. You're performing for the audience, but enough for you that while I'm on stage and I'm rocking my stuff and I really like it, I'm not going to say like 100%. There's like a small percentage. I don't know how much, but not a big, but a small percentage of me that almost is like, if y'all were here right now, I'd still be rocking this fucking like just as much. I love this fucking song. I'm about to rock this fucking house. And now I look around, I'm like, oh shit, y'all love it too, and I got to put on this show. So I'm thinking about like doing that, but I also got to be like, you know what? I'm putting on the show, and if him and her don't like it, that doesn't mean that him, and her, and him don't like it. And then also, if him and her look like they didn't like it, it doesn't mean they didn't like it. So that's another thing too. Like,
yeah,
so
and I hear you. I hear you on that. I will say that is almost on a fundamental level very difficult for me to do, if not impossible, because I always assume the worst out of like reactions for people, unless it's obviously a positive one. Pretty much for me, in my head, just on an instinctual level, a non-positive reaction is a negative one. Not even like a neutral one. It's all or nothing. There is no in between, etc., etc. That's how I feel when I'm on stage. Now, I'll be the first person to tell somebody else the exact same thing you just told me. I will be the first person to tell somebody that. But when it comes to me, I just assume, shit, half the audience use this particular thing as a bathroom break. Would it fuck with me while I'm on stage? Maybe a little, but that's the whole muscle memory in your head. You think one thing, you keep doing it. But would that routine make it to another show? Probably not. Because people used it as a bathroom break. That's me.
And that's something that you got to look at. That's something you got to look at.
I'm just saying, that's me. I'm like, okay.
Take it out.
Yeah.
Maybe it's smart to take that song out because they got up. Or maybe this particular audience uses it as a bathroom break, but this particular audience won't. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's just smart to put this in the show, whether people use it as a bathroom break or not. It's something that you just got to think about.
But yeah. And like I said, like the just do it mentality and all that stuff as well, regardless of the things. Yeah. Tournament of Power. Video that's way too fucking long to garner any actual views. It's a video that's way too long to garner any actual views. And hell, I don't even like watch or rewatch it, primarily because I'm too embarrassed by the fact that it's out there. Like, I'm out there and I'm like, this is embarrassing. Not like anything you did. It's the whole intro, the whole me singing and all that stuff, and like, I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? But I did it, you know? I forced myself to put it out there, so it's out there, and it's on my channel. You know, if you just need something to listen to for 3 hours, and and or
I
watch.
still haven't finished it. Honestly, I forgot about it.
Exactly, it's too fucking long. No one's ever gonna fucking watch that. Why did I do that? Who knows?
Don't
It's.
condemn it that hard.
I mean, it's 3.5 hours long. People ain't got that much time in the world. And it shows by the fact that I'm pretty sure it's got like maybe 1 or 2 views. But at the end of the day, you know, I did it. Do I regret doing it? Only slightly. But I needed to put something out, and so I did. It's one of those things, like, yeah, I believed in it enough to put it out. I'm like, yeah, I like this intro, I regret it now, but I still like that I didn't. Yeah, maybe that one didn't catch on. And who knows? Maybe like years from now, you know, somehow I get more popularity, and then next thing you know, people are like, damn, he actually did this. You know what I mean? Because I think about that when it comes to long content on channels. And I'm like, man, it's too long. No one wants to watch long shit. And yet, I look at myself. I look at some of the things I have watched that is on the longer side. Maybe not the 3-hour long side, because there are things I will not click because of that, even if I do like the creator. So, again, I get it. But that's also not all my content. But, like, let's say stuff that's closer to the 45-minute to 1 hour long time. I'm like, yeah, I have watched plenty of things like that, and I see tons of things, and I see those same videos with tons of views, and people that are like, or when the creator's like, so this is a longer video, it's on the 20-minute side, sorry guys, you know, they're like, I listened to you for an hour, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, okay, so if people care enough, they'll listen to it. You know what I mean? Or watch it, even if it is for an hour. Hell, there's a guy that does videos about One Piece, and every once in a while he'll make a video about the most mundane shit, turn it into like a 30-minute video, and it still get hundreds of thousands of views. Talking about trees. Okay. I just want to hear this man talk about trees for a half hour.
I mean, I would say that what you're speaking on as far as
trees in fiction, not even real life trees.
Right. I would say what you're speaking on in the YouTube realm kind of lends itself to what you were saying earlier, as far as like people being there for you, like they already know who you are.
Yeah.
So that goes to the whole thing of, oh, well, I trust Whatever We Want podcast. I've watched enough Whatever We Want podcast. I like the content of Whatever We Want podcast. I've seen enough consistency of good stuff from Whatever We Want podcast. So Whatever We Want podcast did 3 hours worth of whatever. I'll watch it. Most stuff I've noticed on YouTube, at least most of the time, when it comes to things being ridiculously long videos and they have a lot of views, it's because that person built up enough equity of trust for people to, get people to say, I'm gonna watch it.
Now, for the people at home, because none of y'all watch my stuff, all my video, and I'm not condemning anybody, y'all only got so much time throughout the day, I get it. But said video I'm talking about, part of the reason it was so long, the arc that Jazz and I were talking about it was a long ass arc, and it was the culmination of a lot of videos that we had done, like 10 or 15 videos series. Right. So when it comes to the whole, you build a rapport first, so it's not like it was the first video I did, like, watch my channel. No, it was, we did some stuff talking about Dragon Ball Z movies and stuff. Then we did Dragon Ball Super, and Dragon Ball Super ended with that. And we're like, okay. And so because it was like the end of a journey, if you will, or close enough, it was pretty much the end of a journey and all of that. Sure, this will be a long one. I don't think either of us thought it would turn out as long as it did, but there was just so much shit to talk about in that one arc. Right. And we had so much fun watching it and talking about it. It was great. So there's that. But it's one of those things where And there was a little bit of me as I was doing it that was like, no one's gonna like this. But I eventually just said fuck it and forced myself to put it out there. Now it's out there. Sink or swim, it's out there. So as much as I talk about my trepidations with self-belief or self-endorsement, I do still, the whole shut up and just do it thing, it's not like I don't get that at all. I have shut up and just did it for a minute. It's okay, I shut up and did it. What happens if you don't get a positive response from shutting up and doing it?
It's gonna fucking hurt and sting and suck.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I shut up and did it with the streaming for a year, for instance. And no one really gave a damn. And that was like, okay, well, kind of proved any self-doubt of my entertainment value correct. Because it's like,
I have
okay.
a little bit of a rebuttal.
But at the same time, you can't speak on everything. There's a whole lot of factors that go into it, because it wasn't consistent enough. It wasn't the same time every day. It wasn't like 5 hours a day each time, because people got stuff to do. And again, the problem is, despite the logical evidence to the contrary about whether I should be doing it, I like being on camera. I like entertaining people. And I can't judge people for being addicted to one of the most addictive drugs on the entire planet. Fight me. It's attention.
I knew what you were going to say before you said it.
Attention. I cannot hate on anybody for being addicted to attention. It's why I understand why Jeff Hardy will always find a ladder to jump off of, no matter how old he is and no matter what the match. It's like, God damn it, who gave Jeff a ladder? This man is got serious addictions to other stuff because of all the pain he's put himself through jumping off of these damn things. But yet here he is with another one because he needs that pop. Mick Foley ain't got no more teeth in his damn mouth and can barely walk, doesn't have a real hip joint, in his own words, as well as 50,000 other problems, because also in his own words, when he's about to do something extremely painful and detrimental to his health, he's like, this is a bad idea, but think about the pop when it happens. Oh my God, he killed him! I shouldn't get off this stretcher. I just fell like 30 feet through a table, but nah, the crowd's gonna lose their shit. I ripped a hole in my lip. Let me show the crowd. Let's see the reaction. He's smiling, King.
For those of y'all who don't know, look up the Hell in a Cell between Mankind and Undertaker back in 1998, because it's got to be the most famous wrestling moment, if there is a wrestling moment that's famous to people who don't watch wrestling. So that's what he's talking about. Anyway.
But yeah, no, I like being on camera stuff, which is why I tried to get back into streaming, even if it's just chill streams. I started working on other videos for the YouTube, for my own YouTube and stuff. And it's also why I enjoy doing this Whatever We Want podcast.
Right.
Because we actually have an audience, a consistent audience on this one. Mm-hmm. I can think of at least 3 people off the top of my head that I know consistently watch this, and that's more than consistent viewers of the Twitch.
Well, the one thing that I will say that hurts Whatever We Want to an extent, not to condemn or demean the people who do consistently watch, because very much appreciated. Even if we had one person that consistently watched that wasn't the 2 of us, that would be amazing. So anybody watching, whether they watch
very much appreciate it,
whether they watched one episode, whether they watched a few seconds, whether they consistently watched, that's appreciated. But one thing that's hurting Whatever We Want's growth and possibly hurt it the growth of your streaming and your personal channel is one thing that you gotta do when it comes to this stuff is the promo. And that's the one thing that we have talked about for whatever we want that we've said we should be doing and how to do it. But at the moment, we're both too busy to necessarily do that. So that's one thing that is definitely hurting this channel. I can speak from getting bigger is promoting it more so on various platforms in certain ways.
Oh,
So,
and I've admitted that point as well. Like,
yeah,
one of my main Achilles heels is promotion.
because promotion is the one thing. Like when I released my solo album, when we released our album back in the day, when I released my EP, and every time we learned better ways to promote our shit, me and Dieter Bionic, I'm talking about. But whenever we release our stuff, we learn better ways to promote it. But the thing is, you gotta promote it because there are people out there who want to hear you, want to hear us, like want to see this stuff. But if you don't tell them, hey, look what I'm doing, they're not gonna fucking know. That's really all that is. That's that, like, in simplest terms. It's really, they're like, oh shit, I want to hear or I want to see feogrande stream, but depending on if they saw it or not, they wouldn't even know they wanted to see said thing in the first place. So that's really what it is. Another thing I'll say too, kind of going back a little bit too, one thing that also um, helps with nerves with things too is study. When you study your craft, it is damn near impossible, if not impossible, but I'll say not impossible, damn near impossible, damn near flat out impossible to do anything and be amazing at it the first, second, third, fifth time you do it.
Oh yeah.
You gotta study the craft of it and get better.
Oh yeah.
Thankfully, I love rap, so I don't mind. But I watch a lot of rap. I've studied rap. I got stuff that I look at, and I'm interested in it, so it doesn't feel like homework. But I look at it and I look at like stuff that highlights rhyme schemes and whatever, stuff like that. And it's just like I study the hell out of this shit, and it's one of those things where it's like art is subjective, but to an extent, there is an objective type of way of going about doing things.
Oh yeah, we mentioned that last episode. Yeah. Like, as much as people like to claim art is subjective, it definitely is highly objective as well. There is a right way to do things. They wouldn't teach the subjects if there wasn't a correct way to go about them.
There's no steadfast way that says it has to be this way, but there's definitely a hugely social contract agreed upon objectivity about this is the way a movie is constructed. But movies that stand out, if they're good, are movies that break the typical objective nature of movies. So, like this is the way a song is structured, but songs that stand out are the good ones that break it. But there's objective ways to do shit.
And even the good ones that break it, they break it within reason.
Yeah, no,
like they still follow the basic rules. They just the things where there is leeway. All right, we go ahead and we'll do this.
like Memento tells the story backwards. The Memento, what was his name? Guy Pearce, Joe Pantoliano, Carrie Ann Moss.
Sure.
Yeah. About the dude, it is. I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but no, it took me a second. Anyway.
No, you're the one who put question marks on it, and so I said, sure.
I know. I'm more laughing at the way I said it is. That sounded like a little arrogant little bitch.
Oh, okay, yeah. I wasn't questioning you. I was saying I don't know those answers.
Anyway, that's the movie about the dude who has short-term memory loss, and it's told in reverse, where you see the story unfolding backwards. So you basically see where the story in real time, like the beginning is where the real time story ends. And then the end of the movie is actually where it would have began, so to speak.
Oh yeah, it's a classic.
great movie. But
Fantastic
like you said,
movie.
it breaks the objectivity within reason. Because they don't just tell the whole story in motherfucking reverse. Like, no. They show a scene forward, then they show the next scene that came before that, but they show it forward. And then, like, they don't do all this other crazy shit. And then they even have this one scene that is actually moving forward in between those scenes to kind of tie it together.
And I
Because if you
don't
go
believe
too,
his lies. Why don't I believe his lies? And then
remember
later
Sammy
you find
Davis.
out why.
But the whole thing is like if you go too far off, then because the audience, if you go too far off, because of how we've all kind of been taught to watch this shit, to see this shit, to hear this shit, to do whatever, we've all just kind of been conditioned how this goes. If you go too far off of whatever, your audience will be like, "What the fuck," and not be able to follow your ass. That's one of the reasons why you can't go too far off this shit. But no, man. Suffice it all to say that the more you do something, the better at it you get. The only way to get good at something is to just do said thing. And no, of course, the thoughts are gonna creep in your head of doubt. Sometimes louder, sometimes quieter, but it's gonna be there. But hopefully, the admiration and the feeling of accomplishment is greater than the doubt ever could be.
Yeah,
Basically.
exactly. As long as you're getting positive feedback, it should show you that your self doubt is ill placed. I guess my thing
Sometimes,
is, what do we tell people who don't receive the positive feedback?
and that's
And
why I
so
said
all they
study.
have to focus on is the self doubt.
That's why I said study. The biggest thing to do is study. You have to study and say, okay, all I'm getting is negative feedback. And then you got to go back to the drawing board and say, why am I just getting negative feedback? And really, really think, why am I getting negative feedback? And figure out how to make it to where your feedback slowly changes from negative to positive.
Without giving up on yourself.
Well, I
Because
was gonna
there's
say,
a certain
no,
level
it
of
hurts. It hurts.
there's a certain level that I personally, because people talk about my whole branded thing, there's certain levels that I do care a little bit too much what other people think about me with this whole branded thing. Because there's certain levels of, like, for lack of a better term, Zoomer comedy or Zoomer traits and stuff that I'm not trying to necessarily hop on. It's like, well, yeah, clearly this person could go over here and do something very stupid or self-detrimental, and they don't care about their self-image, and they get people to laugh and they get the views. But that's also them. I want to get, but they're just being them. Yeah, well, I want to be me too, but me is not that. Like, me is a little bit more than what I put on camera, I will say.
I would argue, even on top of that, you should never put all of your true self on camera. Period. Anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
anyway, yeah. Just like you should never put, even if you put 90% of yourself, you should save a little bit of 10% for you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but no, man. At the end of the day, like I had to come to terms when I started making music that the stuff that is being played on the radio right now and that most people are listening to is the trap style of rap. And if I do make a trap song, or at least in the style of the beat and the style of like the flow pattern, then so be it. But that isn't necessarily what naturally flows out of me. So I had to come to terms with the fact that because the music that I make that naturally flows out of me, if I want my level of authenticity, I had to come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to try to fake anything and then hope that what I make people will like. There was a quote that I actually screenshotted online real quick that I'm gonna read real fast. I said, "Don't change your style so people will like you. Be yourself, and the right fans will love the real you." I screenshotted that because I had to think about it, and I was like, "Well, if I try to force some shit, it's gonna come off extremely unauthentic." But if I do this, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna necessarily hit like a big, huge, crazy ass audience, but I'm gonna get a good amount of fans, and I'm not gonna be faking anything.
Yeah.
Because one thing, like the only thing that I would say, and granted, I'm not on a huge level, but I would argue that the only thing better than having people really love your shit is having people really love your shit and notice you didn't compromise you to do that.
Exactly. Like I said, if all I wanted to do is go like study YouTube and see what the algorithm likes, and it's like, oh, we like the Zoomer shit of like pranking each other, not even like Jackass style, but like, haha, I faked my death in front of you, haha, that was a prank, bro. Or let me go to the suicide forest and laugh at some people so I could end up at WrestleMania with my $5 million Pikachu card.
You ain't have to be that goddamn specific, but anyway.
I mean, guy got famous because he went to a suicide forest and laughed at some dead people and then bought a $5 million Pikachu card. And then he got to be at WrestleMania, which to his credit, he did a lot better than I thought he did. I will say, since either Bad Bunny or McAfee or a combination of the two, because McAfee did do his NXT matches before Bad Bunny did his WrestleMania match, I'm pretty sure. Celebrities have been stepping their shit up at WrestleMania.
Even Knoxville didn't do like a straight up wrestling match. Still.
Oh no, the Jackass match was fantastic. It may not have been a wrestling by tech.
Wrestling.
Yeah, yes, because everybody that wrestles a match is a technical mastermind.
I'm not condemning anything. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think we've been talking for a minute.
I was gonna let you finish, and I was gonna like wind it up. Yeah, no, we actually like this is clearly between two artists. Things like this of this nature, and I've noticed this in my personal life off of the podcast, off of just necessarily even talking to my best friend here. Think of artists when artists are truly talking, not putting on any airs and talking about what they feel about the art, what they feel about art in general, and tackling it, mindset, stuff like that. We can talk forever because getting your thoughts out and being heard is important, but also picking other people's brains and seeing, okay, what do they think? What do I think? Okay, maybe I should change that. Oh, okay, that's something to think about. All that stuff, meeting other minds with this stuff between artists is some conversation that can go on forever. So that being said, to cut us off, quite literally cut us off because it's a long episode, longer than normal at least. If you would like to follow us on our socials, then you can go ahead and find and follow yours truly. As I have said in this episode several, many times, you can go ahead. Well, first off, my good friend, who I had the pleasure of performing for yesterday. By this time, it'll have been a few weeks. Dieter Bionic, DDARE, BIONIC. You can go ahead and look him up. He just released his second solo album, Statuesque Hot Mess. Statuesque spelled correctly, hot HAUTE, mess spelled correctly anywhere you stream music. But yeah, if you would like to follow me, you can find me on anywhere you stream your music, which would be under the name Superjaz, SUPERJAZ. And my debut solo album is My Secret Identity, all the words spelled correctly. Also, if you would like to, you can go ahead and find and follow me on Twitter, which would be under the name Superjaz2. So that's Superjaz number 2. And of course, if you feel so inclined, find and follow me on Instagram, which would be under the name Forever Superjaz. Where can they find you?
You can find, well, first of all, y'all can find me here every week, every Wednesday on the Whatever We Want podcast. You can always find me elsewhere on YouTube at YouTube/feogrande. That's FEO Grande. You can also find me on Twitter and Twitch at Giotavi. That is GIOTAVI. Come on in, stop on by. Yeah.
It's so funny when we always go into these episodes and the name of the show, quite literally the basis of the show or whatever, that pretty much we never know what we're going to talk about, and then we just start going off. And yeah, there it is. But all that being said, what are we gonna talk about next time?
Something less depressing. No, I'm kidding. Whatever we want. Adiosness.
All right, buddy.